Hi, I'm Becca,
And I'm Ceci. Welcome to What If You Knew, the Red Flag series.
where we teach you how to avoid getting stuck in toxic relationships and what you need to know to be the kind of person who attracts the kind of person you want to be with.
In our lifetimes, we're exposed to so many different kinds of relationships. You've probably even seen a few toxic ones and hopefully a few healthy ones, but most were probably somewhere in between. At this point, you probably have a pretty good idea of what you want your relationship with your partner to be like. So how do you find it? And if you're already in a relationship, how do you tell for sure that it's what you really want?
You know when you see something that you can never unsee or unhear? That's what kind of happened to us when we learned the stuff we're about to share with you. I used to think that stress and anxiety were a part of every relationship and there was nothing we could really do about that. But I was wrong. There's a reason why so many of us feel stress in our relationships. When I applied what we'll be sharing, my stress was eliminated.
What was so surprising to me, Becca, was how all my relationships with people got better. The healthy ones and the difficult ones. Little frustrations just melted away as I felt a deeper, more genuine connection with my family, friends, coworkers, my students, even strangers.
If there was a formula for a happy, healthy relationship, would you use it? Guess what? There is. And all you have to do is find the answers to 3 questions.
And when you know the answers, you will know whether a person is someone you really want to be with or not. And as a side note, these things will also help you understand why past relationships may have failed. The first question to find the answer to is, do they know that a person's worth never changes? Have you ever been on a date with someone who's made a comment about your ride? Nice car. You should have seen what my last date was driving. Or maybe you pass a homeless person and they mumble, that guy should get a job. Maybe you're at a restaurant and your date points to the couple in another booth and says, I feel sorry for that girl. She could do way better.
When we hear someone make a comment like that, what they're really saying is that to them, some people are worth less than others. And the problem with this is that even though we are all different, we are all equal. If you know someone like this, you probably also notice they have problems in their relationships. That's why this first question is important. Do they know that a person's worth never changes?
In order to avoid confusion, let's first quickly point out the difference between worth and value as we use it here in Red Flags. When we talk about value, we're talking about the impact another person has on your life. Positive or negative, do they help you, hurt you? But when we talk about worth, we're talking about the innate worth of every human being. We are all equal when it comes to our worth. Put simply, value can change, but our worth never does.
Your worth, everyone's worth, is infinite. We were born with it. Even though it may not feel like it right now, it hasn't changed since birth because there's nothing you can do that will change your worth. And there's nothing anyone else can do to you that will change it either. All are created equal.
Even though our worth never changes, our behaviors do over time. We behave the way we do because of what we believe, how we think, feel, and when those things change, the way we act changes to adjust to our new perspective.
In a healthy relationship, both partners understand that worth and behavior are 2 completely separate things. They're not connected at all. It might take some practice, but we need to keep them separate in our minds. And because your worth never changes and it's not connected to your behavior, you always deserve to be treated with respect, even when you aren't behaving in the way people think you should be.
These 3 facts about behavior will help you keep them separate. First, most behavior is learned. We learn it from watching the people around us and from our own experiences. Second, our core beliefs drive our behavior. The way we behave is a result of our totally unique experiences and therefore totally unique perspectives. Third, if you see misbehavior, there's a deeper problem. If we don't find the real problem and work on that, we're wasting our time just treating the symptoms.
If someone knows that worth never changes, here's what you'll see.
They show compassion and withhold judgment. If you're walking and pass a homeless person, you might see them wave at them or say hello.
They are patient and kind. If the waitress in a crowded restaurant comes to take your order and apologizes for the long wait, instead of complaining, they'd say something like, no worries, I can see it's busy tonight.
They treat everyone equally, even when they don't like what a person's doing. If they don't agree with someone, you might hear them say, that's not my preference, but I respect their decision.
When you describe someone as being kind and loving, you're talking about someone who keeps worth and behavior separate in their minds. Because when a person can do that, we feel completely accepted, no matter what. For example, let's say this kind of a person has a partner that is emotional and says some hurtful things. They'd probably respond back with something like this: I love you and want to have this conversation. I need some time, though, to think about this and calm down because I don't want to treat you or talk to you disrespectfully.
You'll notice that they'll talk to a person who's misbehaving as if they weren't misbehaving. They try to look past the behavior and address the person with compassion. The emotional message they send is love and respect, patience, and kindness. When we show compassion for each other in a relationship, we can have real connection. So when you're looking for a partner, look for someone who's compassionate. It's the opposite of toxic. You've probably heard of red flags. Red flags are the signs of a potentially toxic relationship.
Red flags are visible. When it comes to our romantic relationships, so many of us ignore them because we want the relationship so badly. Think for a second. Have you ever had a relationship that you look back on and wonder, what was I thinking? Was there someone that cared about you during that time who was not excited about the person you were with? Were they picking up on red flags you weren't noticing? Have you noticed red flags in someone else's relationship that they didn't notice? You're not alone. It's common, especially in the beginning, to dismiss red flags when we really want the relationship. But if we dismiss them for too long, those red flags turn into toxic relationships.
Here's what you don't want to see if you want real connection. When a person believes they're more important than you, your emotions and how you feel won't matter much to them. They probably won't even want to hear about them. Red flag.
They do or say things to make you feel less important than they are. A clear indication that they don't understand that all people have equal worth. Red flag.
They only want to do things they enjoy and not things you enjoy. Red flag.
They might be really nice to you, but they mock or are mean to others. It's easy to think we're the exception, but keeping up the act won't last forever. So beware. There will come a time when the meanness will be directed at you or someone you love. Red flag.
In a healthy relationship, each partner works on improving themselves, but some people are interested in changing when they realize they can improve. When there's a problem, they don't take responsibility for their part in it, and they'll expect you to do the changing. So the second question you need to find the answer to is, do they know that we can only change ourselves? And do they make changes when they see that they can improve?
People that don't take responsibility say things like this. If she wasn't so high maintenance, I'd have more time to study and be able to work more hours. Or if he didn't always want to eat out, I wouldn't keep gaining weight. They'll say, it's just the way I am. I was born this way. I can't help it. Can't you accept me for who I am? Or I wouldn't have to yell if you didn't make me so angry. Asking this question will tell you if they're going to want you to change to fit their preferences. No one wants to be in a relationship with a person who's always trying to change or fix them.
Who will call the shots in your relationship? Is it okay for your partner to subtly or overtly decide how you should think, feel, or act? Is it okay for you to decide those things for your partner?
When who you are, what you think, and how you feel are not dependent upon the other person's preferences, you are emotionally independent. That's the opposite of codependent.
Codependency, or any other kind of dependency, is unattractive to emotionally healthy people, but it can be attractive to toxic people who want to use you. And to expert manipulators, it is very attractive. That's exactly what they're looking for. It makes them feel powerful if they're in control, so they want someone who's dependent and doesn't stand up for themselves.
How will you know if they know they can only change themselves? You will notice that they work hard to solve their problems instead of blaming others for them.
You'll see them using healthy ways to keep themselves comfortable, instead of expecting someone else to change so they can feel comfortable.
When they notice they can improve, they work on it, and you will see them changing.
If they realize they've hurt your feelings, you'll hear something like, "Oh, I didn't intend to be hurtful. I'll use different words next time." And the next time, they actually do speak to you with more compassionate language.
After a misunderstanding, you might hear them say, I hear what you're saying, and I think I understand. And later, you'll see them following through.
When they get frustrated, you'll actually notice them trying to be more patient afterward, and they won't stop trying. The key here is that when they recognize they can improve, they make a deliberate plan. They work hard at it, and you see them changing. The most important part is that the reason they're changing isn't because you're telling them to change, but it's because they want to improve.
Here are some red flags that will show you that a person thinks they can change you and isn't interested in changing themselves. Their way is the right way. They might tell you straight up, or they might be passive aggressive about it. But either way, you'll get the message that you should be doing things their way. That's a red flag.
They ask you to do things to prove your love. This is a really important one. If someone asks you to prove your love to them, it's a screaming red flag. Real love is built over time. It can't be proven in one moment with one act. The proof of it is shown by small actions over time. So now that you know the first two questions, let's move on to the third. Most of us naturally modify our behavior in different settings when appropriate. For instance, we act less formally around our friends than we would at a business meeting. But some people change their behavior depending on what they think the other person wants them to be. People who pretend to be someone they aren't are like relationship chameleons. And there are a couple general reasons why a person might do this. When someone isn't confident about who they are or hasn't felt safe to be who they really are in a past relationship, they might become a chameleon with the hope of being accepted by others. But when a person feels a need, consciously or subconsciously, to be the controller in a relationship, they become a chameleon to deceive others and to get what they want.
So you're looking for someone who isn't fake, someone who doesn't alter the way they act for selfish interests. You want someone who's honest with you about who they are all of the time, someone who has integrity. So the third question you need to find the answer to is, do they change depending on where they are and who they are with?
To have real connection in your relationship, you've got to be able to trust the other person. Integrity will build that kind of trust.
Watch how they interact with others in a variety of settings. When they're with their family or their friends or coworkers, people they don't know, like store clerks and customer service reps. The time you need to pay the closest attention is when you are stressed or when they are stressed.
It's already hard to keep your cool in those situations, but keeping up an act is almost impossible when you're stressed. If the mask is going to slip off, it's going to happen during one of those times. It might only be just for a moment, but if you're paying attention, you can catch a glimpse of what they're really like. Stressful times are good times to see red flags if they're there.
When you are in the early stages of a relationship, it will always be worth your time to observe the way they behave over time and in a variety of situations. If you do this before you commit, you'll be able to pick up on any red flags that might be there before it's too late.
A person with integrity will be the same in private as they are in public. They're true to themselves and they won't act differently.
They are regularly reliable and responsible. They do what they say they are going to do when they say they are going to do it.
They're okay admitting when they're wrong because they have no reason to fear and nothing to hide.
They're honest, even when it's not easy to be or convenient to be.
In contrast, if you see that a person says one thing and does something else, you're looking at a red flag.
If they don't follow through with what they've committed to do, you're looking at a red flag.
If they take advantage of another person or a situation when they think they can get away with it, it's a red flag.
When you keep your integrity, that means you are who you are. You will find others who do the same thing, and you won't waste time building relationships that aren't real. That's called settling.
So do you have these three questions down now? Do they know worth never changes? Do they know that they can only change themselves, and when they realize they can improve, they work on it? Do they change for selfish reasons or pretend to be something they aren't when it benefits them? At the end of the day, knowing these answers will mean the difference between a real relationship or a fake one.
So observe before you commit. Really watch them. Take the time to find the answers to these questions. It's worth it.
Relationships come and go. That's just part of the package when you're dating. And it's okay. In fact, it's good to get to know a variety of people.
The shape you are in emotionally when a relationship ends will depend on whether you were yourself or you weren't.
The reality is, if you don't feel like you can be yourself or they don't want you to be yourself, you're building on a cracked foundation.
If you aren't being you and they aren't being them, it's not a real relationship. It's something else, something fake.
If you have to compromise, go against what you want or what you feel is right for you, then it's not worth it. Bottom line, if you're being led to believe anything that isn't true, you're being manipulated. And speaking of manipulation, we're actually going to be talking about it next time in Red Flags 2.
In the meantime, remember, you can know what to look for and you can know what you're looking at.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.